Hi everyone, I hope that you are having a wonderful afternoon. It is, April 8th, 2020, and we are in a crazy time right now. As everyone knows, we have the whole COVID situation going on. A lot of people are out of work, a lot of people are going through difficult times, and I'm lucky and blessed enough that, knock on wood, for now, I'm okay. I have my job still. My husband has his job still, so we are very blessed in that aspect. And with all this going on, I'm sure that a lot of people now are, kind of on YouTube a lot and kind of filtering around to this. So I kind of thought it was a good time to start this channel. I had one a while back. It was more kind of like beauty, makeup related, which I also enjoy as well. But I had something come into my life recently that I am really passionate about talking about and seeing what I can do to help and just kind of give my story on it. And I just felt that this would be a good time to talk about it. And if I can just go and, even help 1 to 2 people, that would mean the world to me. I think it's something that is so underlooked that whatever knowledge I can bring, I would love. So I'm really, for now, just kind of dedicating this channel to what I'm going to get into. And then, we'll see in the future what this brings. But I'd love to hear in the comments down below your experiences with this, if you have any, if you feel that you might have this, and then, whatever I can do to help, I would love to do that. So just kind of diving into it, I'm actually going to talk about celiac disease. Celiac, it's something that I never ever imagined was something. I didn't even consider it. I didn't even think about this. It wasn't even on my radar. All I know is that, so I'm 36. All I know is that since I've been very young, I've had issues. When I was young, my issues, and I still have these, is I had insane, excruciating leg pains. Now, not just growing pains as a young child. These were deep, deep bone pains that I would cry for hours every night. My dad would have to come massage my legs. It was horrible. And, of course, everyone at that age, you're like, oh, it's just growing pains. Hers just might be a little more severe than others. But they were bad. And I have now, still to this day, I get these insane leg pains that feel like growing pains, just very exacerbated, I guess. And it's like, of course I'm not growing still. If I was still having these pains, I should be 7.5 feet tall by now. So it was just something I kind of always just never really knew it was up. It became my way of life. Then I had stomach issues all the time. All the time. My stomach is upset, or was, all the time. And it would be upset when I woke up in the morning. It would be upset in the middle of the day. It would be upset at night. It would be upset until I went to bed. And it was just like that. I don't know. Sometimes it was way worse than others, like a stabbing pain. And then some days it was just like a really, like full sensation, or like gassy, not like actual gas, I get, but just full. I was tired all the time. I would fall asleep literally right after dinner, right after a meal. I would fall asleep. I'd fall asleep at my desk, everything. And just came to a place where I just figured that's just life. Everybody must feel like this. I also have epilepsy. I had my first seizure when I was 14. Came out of absolutely nowhere. No clue. That day I had 3 back to back. Because of course I went right to the ER, and I just kept having them, back to back that day. Come future, I've had usually like once or twice a year, I'll have a grand mal seizure. And it just, again, became like life. When I was younger, I knew that I should be taking my medicine, and I would be like, because I took, 1 or 2 in my 20s. It made me feel awful, and I was just, I'm not going to do that anymore. I know as an adult that is absolutely the wrong choice and not safe, not only for me, but for other people. And that's something that I definitely regret. I do have something called an aura that I get before my seizures, which basically makes me feel, I don't know how to explain it, but I can just tell it's coming. It's almost like a kind of out of it, like woozy feeling, kind of dizzy. So I could always feel them about 30 seconds before they happen, so I was able to get to a safe place and everything like that. I'll get more into my seizures down the road. I just want to give you kind of a fast story of how this happened. I tend to ramble, so I'm going to try and keep it up, or wrap it up. So, come down the road, however many years later, this was just life for me, and, just living day to day. I'm a super positive person, so I always just would chug along, and it's fine. And I have 2 daughters. One is right now 10, and the other 7, and, as your mom and a wife, and you just kind of forget about yourself sometimes, and you think about just everyone else, and you're just kind of last priority, I guess. I worked full time all through, my children and everything like that. And I'd say I'm a super active mom. So basically how this was discovered, total, I want to say fluke, because it wasn't even something, again, that was on the radar. Of course, I had heard some things about celiac disease, but as we know, celiac a lot of times, not celiac, but the gluten thing, a lot of people just don't take it seriously, or it's like such a fad now. Now, I do believe that gluten has a huge impact on so many people. I think I read something that said 60 to 70 people have some type of intolerance to it. But, I didn't know so much. I knew that there was something called celiac, and I knew kind of about it, but I didn't know, I guess, the severity and seriousness of it. So what ended up happening is my little 7-year-old, probably about 3 years ago, started getting the leg pains. And the pains were really, really bad for her. They would happen a lot. She would just say, my legs hurt. And of course, when you're 4, at that point, I'm thinking, okay, these are growing pains. So I kind of brushed it off for a little bit, and she would talk about her stomach hurting. And it wasn't all the time. It would be here and there. And she would just say, my stomach hurts. So of course, you're trying to figure it out. You're like, okay, are you being a little dramatic, or, what's going on? So she would complain of these leg pains. It was probably 2 years. And now as a parent, I'm I feel awful because, I could have figured this out a long time ago. But again, it's I don't know. I didn't know about myself. So I was just okay, she's taking after me and has more, sensitive legs and things. And that's a big growth time. So that's kind of what I guess chalked it up to. So I talked to her doctor about it, and I said, she keeps complaining of these leg pains. She keeps saying her stomach hurts. I had mentioned this to her doctor probably 6 months before, and of course she said, well, let's try and come off of, make sure she's having enough water and high fiber and all that. And my daughter's never had issues with the bathroom, I guess you could say. So that wasn't something that we were really looking at. So, I followed those things. She had some blood work done. She had her iron come back low, which I know can, and magnesium come back low. And both of those can kind of go into the bone pain of creating those pains in the bones. So, when I came back a little bit later, I was just a couple months after, and I'm she's still complaining of it. We have to look deeper in this. So, she really took a lot of time to really talk about the symptoms and when it happens. And it's just so random when it happens. It's not again, this was nothing I was even looking at. So she ran a bunch of tests. She didn't really tell me what she was running for. I knew, wanted to check levels of nutrients and things like that. But I think just in general as doctors and peds, like they don't always want to say like, oh, I'm checking for a possible, cancer cell count and da-da-da-da, because they don't want to freak you out. So I didn't know exactly what she was running. She's amazing. So I trusted, what she wanted to do and her, professional input and everything like that. So I have my daughter get her blood work done. And again, this is the 7-year-old. So they call me the next day. And when the doctor calls you the next day after your blood, you're like, okay, like what's up? So they call me and they say, so all of her blood work came back good. There were a few things a little low, but she did test positive for celiac disease. And I'm like, what? Like, I didn't even know you were running for that. And come again? Like, I don't even know that was something, like, to think, like, just it wasn't even on my radar. And the girl, it wasn't the actual doctor, it was like the medical assistant or whatever. I'm like, okay, was it bad? Like, what were her, I don't know, like, anything about this. And I said, is it just like a maybe? Like, what's happening? And she said, well, her numbers are really high. And another video, I'll kind of get into numbers and what all of it means. I just want to give you my story now. But, she said her numbers did come back high. And her celiac came back positive. Now, celiac can kind of do false positives and things like that. So she said, absolutely, you need to go, see a GI. And they referred me over to the GI. And she said, we really can't get the final diagnosis of it until we go and get the GI done. Sorry, not the GI, the endoscopy. I'm sure most of you know what the endoscopy is, but it's where you take a little tube, you go down your throat. Of course, you're under anesthesia for this. And then you go and they take out some samples from your small intestine. I'll explain again in another video kind of why they do the small intestine, what all of that means. But that's where they can see confirmation. That's where they can see the extent of damage, etc. So she's like, we need to get you hooked up with the GI and all of that. So we did go see the GI. She did get the endoscopy. Again, I'll get more into that down the road, And then I said, is this a genetic thing? And she said, yeah, well, what we find is it is. It's typically genetic, so probably you or your husband do have it. So, of course, again, going back to that piece of like, well, I just want to care for my daughter. Like, I'll figure it out down the road and it'll be fine. And that's not my worry right now. It's her and, getting her situated and everything. So then I'm like talking to a friend of mine and I said, do you think that I should look into it? And my friend was like, I really do. And then my husband, he said, I think that you should probably just get the testing so we can, figure out. And then if it's not you, like we need to figure where it's coming from, because obviously this stuff can like skip generations and things like that. So I'm like, all right. But I really didn't want to have to go to my doctor and then get a referral to GI and wait 3 months to get in the GI and that. So I actually called my OB and I said, hey, because they have an actual like blood, like a phlebotomist there. Well, they'll just take it. You don't have to go to SonoraQuest or LabCorp or whatever. So I went and, I just sent a message. I said, hey, my daughter tested positive for celiac. I'd like to get tested too. They said, no problem. Don't worry about a visit. We'll just run the panel, which is so awesome. Most doctors would be like, you need to come in and, so they could get your copay or whatever. But she's like, yeah, no problem. So I go and they take my blood. And next day, it was a Saturday, which who posts anything on a Saturday, doctors? But my OB did. Which again, I'm so impressed that my OB was just like, no problem, posted on the site next day, positive for celiac. And I had the same crazy high numbers. And I'm like, what the hell? Like this just, again, like wasn't even something that I thought about. And then when you look at it, and I think about everything, and I think about myself as a child, and I think about the pain, and I think about my stomach hurting all the time. And I just start like putting it all together. And it's like, of course, that answers everything. And I should have explained this a little bit more, but for those of you that don't know what celiac is, it's basically an allergy to gluten. It's not just like an intolerance and things like that. The difference between an intolerance and an allergy is an intolerance is that it's not good for you. It definitely can upset you and cause other issues. Gluten causes so many problems with people that you would not even think about. Depression, anxiety, different OCD type of behaviors, on top of all the actual physical things and feelings, acne, there's just, the list goes on and on. There are over, I think, 120 different type of symptoms that could be celiac, but it's all stuff that would be your normal, that could link to 500 other things, like, oh, you have IBS, or you have this or that, or so again, like, people, I think, look at it as something else when it really is this. And my whole thing of this is I want to be an advocate for people, because I feel like this is something, it's definitely becoming more people are becoming more aware of this, and people are getting more educated on it. But I feel like it's such a thing, even with doctors, that they don't even think about, and it needs to be looked at more. And I feel like celiac is going to be much more common as the years go because of the things that they put in our products. And I will get into that, and please come back for it, because there's so much to learn about this. And I learn every day. I read stuff all the time, and I just want to share what I can, because I feel awful for people that go through this. And some people don't know until they're 70, and some people end up getting stomach cancer, and that's when they find out, or intestinal cancer, or colon cancer. It's all linked. And it's like, if we could just look at this more, like, just please, it's such a simple blood panel to run. I think I got my bill and it was $8 or something like that once it ran through my insurance. Anyways, I got off track, but celiac is an actual allergy to it. So basically what it does is it comes in and attacks your small intestine and creates extensive damage where you can't absorb minerals. And sorry if you hear that bird out there. You can't absorb minerals, and there's so many other things that happen, and it creates an actual autoimmune disorder. So it is not something that is just like made up, or you're being dramatic. It's a real thing, and I can't even tell you how much already this has changed my life. With celiac being so much more common, not only that, but also just how much more aware people of gluten and intolerances and things like that. There's so much available out there. So really the basis of my whole channel is I want to bring knowledge. I want to share my experiences with you. I'd love to have my daughter come on here and just talk about her experiences as a 7-year-old. That's a huge thing, that you can't have it's just a change of life. You can't have your grilled cheese and your cookies and you can't have cake with your class when everyone has it. And it's a huge thing. And my daughter's been a sport, but there's been really, really hard times for her too. And I'm glad that I have this with her so that we can kind of go through this journey together. We did get my other daughter tested. She was fine. It was interesting too, because I also went through my genetics from 23andMe, and they don't diagnose you with anything, but looking at your gene variant, they can say, like, you may have more of a, you're more likely to get this. And it was funny because it was literally like the day after I found out about mine, a week after Madeline's, and I got that's my daughter, Madeline. Madeline is my 7-year-old and Lola is my 10-year-old. So if I refer to them, that's who I'm talking about. And my husband is Chris. So when I got it back, it said that I have more likely chance to get celiac. So there is an actual gene disposition to it. So, there's kind of a bunch of things wrapped into it. But again, my whole purpose of this channel is to share whatever knowledge I have, to support you, and just, again, if I can help one person, or like maybe give you some answers, or just share my journey. Or if you're going through this, it's hard. It sucks. Like, it's a big thing to find out, but it's also therapeutic because you're like, I get it. I understand, and I can make my life better. And that's what I'm doing for myself and for my child. And again, it's a transition, but we are going to do it, and we're going to rock it out, and it's going to be awesome. So I hope you guys come back. I would love for you to give your comments down below, maybe the struggles you've had, or your journey that you've had, or even I might have this and you have any questions. I would love to give you any feedback or support that I can. So I'm planning on uploading twice a week, and again, it is going to be more about anything that I can think of celiac related. So this is kind of our whole family journey, and I hope you come back and stay healthy, stay well. We're in a crazy time. No, you're not alone, and I'll be back soon.